Have you ever thought about starting a junk removal service? Or how about a dumpster rental business? Well, today we're talking with someone who managed to pull off both. Josh Daniel has one of the most successful dumpster rental and junk removal services in the country. And today he's going to share with us how to dominate this profitable niche.
And that's how we got started, is we ordered a trailer and 5 dumpsters. The second week, we ordered 20 more dumpsters because we mentioned it to a few contractors that we were gonna start doing dumpsters, and they were all about it. So by week 2, we were 25 dumpsters in, and the rest is history. I had 6-month-old baby twins, so
Sure.
we had to figure it out. There was no other option.
Okay.
We have drivers, we have teams, we have crews, people answer the phone, people who do our marketing. We have all of that separate from me. So I could disappear for 2 weeks and it would run itself, which
Sure.
is ultimately the goal, but it took a while. $1,000 a month budget is very minimal. And we've seen months where we've spent $6,000, $7,000 a month
Wow.
just on Google ads. Again, they get a text saying thank you so much, and that is it.
Sure.
Where again, our competitors will be like, hey, thanks for the $300. You owe us another $350 between mileage, fuel, dump fees, days you had it, a cloud was over the sky,
Right.
all these random fees.
Right.
We don't believe in it. Hate the fact that they went to college, they are $100,000 in debt, and now they're working at wherever they could find a job, which has nothing to do with their degree, making $45,000 a year. That's heartbreaking.
I mean, from a business standpoint, is the profit margin better for a business on junk removal, or is it better on dumpster rental?
So,
You're one of the best reviewed dumpster rental and junk removal businesses online. What makes you different than the competition?
communication. When you try to get a dumpster, usually in our experience, obviously we shop our competition and hear how we can be better and try to make ourselves better. That being said, we call people and ask for prices for dumpsters, and it's like you're bothering them.
Okay.
So we are pleased to get not only an inquiry, but obviously we hope for a job. But when you call us to inquire about a dumpster, we're pleased to hear from you. We're excited to hear about your project and what's on the other end. And with other companies, it's not quite the same. It's more of a bother. I started off being the only one who answered the phone.
Okay.
I train everybody who answers the phone, and we try to make it a friendly conversation. If somebody wants to ramble on the other end, we let them do that.
Sure.
We ultimately not only want to get that one dumpster with you, but we want to do the next one, and we want you to tell your friends. So that's, I think, our difference. We obviously push for reviews, which helps what you just mentioned. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think sets us apart, is communication and relationships.
Nice. So how long have you been in business now for?
So we've been in business since 2011.
Okay.
We've been a dumpster company since 2017, and we were a junk removal company right in the middle of that, maybe 2014-ish.
Okay.
We've definitely merged a few times along the way. If you might not believe it, we actually started in 2011 as a property management, project management company is what we basically started as.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before 2011, what were you doing before you even got involved with TrashHelp?
So I'm born and raised here, right here in West Palm. I actually, believe it or not, always wanted to either be a cop or a realtor.
Okay.
I ended up being a realtor, didn't end up doing the cop route, and I decided I wanted to go out on my own. I worked with family for a little while. Working with family is not the best thing in the world. That didn't work
Sure.
out, and it forced me to go out on my own and make that leap. Some guys make the leap without being forced to. I was forced to.
Sure.
So in 2011, with 6-month-old twins, we went out on our own, tried something new, and we made it work. Like I said, we started as a company that was managing property for snowbirds, associations. I have an LCAM license as well. I have my realtor's license. We have a lot of different things. After about 1.5 years of that, we got into bank REO foreclosure stuff.
Sure.
And that was, in the beginning, management. We were managing bank REO properties. Next thing you know, it was, do you know a landscaper? And after a few not so responsive landscapers, we bought a landscaping rig.
Okay.
And we now became landscapers.
Sure.
And then, hey man, we really could use a pressure cleaner on this particular one. And after a few not so responsive pressure cleaning companies, we kind of became a pressure cleaning company.
Sure.
So we started one way and kind of kept developing and turning into doing a multiple of things. And at one point we had, probably by 2013, we probably had 16 employees.
Oh, wow.
Almost a dozen trucks. I mean, we were, you know, management, maintenance. We were probably more maintenance at that point than management.
Sure.
Once the foreclosures died, we kind of dumbed everything back down and went junk removal and demolition.
Okay.
Demolition requires dumpsters. We could not rely on the local dumpster companies to turn dumpsters fast enough for what we were producing in trash at our demolition job.
Sure.
So we went to UDump, a Ocala-based manufacturer that builds dumpster rigs on trailers. You can pull them with as little as a 1500. I may not recommend it depending on the weight, but
all right.
And that's how we got started. Is we ordered a trailer and 5 dumpsters.
Okay.
The second week, we ordered 20 more dumpsters because we mentioned it to a few contractors that we were going to start doing dumpsters, and they were all about it.
Wow.
So by week 2, we were 25 dumpsters in, and the rest is history. We've serviced basically all of Florida. We've got almost a dozen trucks throughout Florida, almost 200 dumpsters. I mean, we've grown quite a bit.
Sure.
And we've become the one-stop shop for dumpsters. If you need a dumpster, whether it be Miami, Jacksonville, the Keys, Tampa, Pensacola, we can get it taken care of for you.
Nice. I think something a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, struggle with is taking that initial leap. Was there any kind of like safety that you had when in 2011 you decided, I'm just going to go out on my own? Like, did you have a backup plan, or were you just all in at that point in time?
So I was doing property management for a company part-time. Again, I had kids. I had 6-month-old baby twins. So
Sure.
we had to figure it out. There was no like other option.
Okay.
And we just took this leap of faith. We were hoping it would work. We just faked it till we made it.
Right.
And here's the other end of faking it till you make it.
Nice. I mean, were there some difficult times when you first started, or like from the get-go, like were you like, this is going to be successful?
No, it's terrifying. So it's not for the weak at all. If you ever want to get beat up every single day, I recommend starting your own business.
Right.
We started off, you know, spending every dollar we had trying to make something work. We would make some money and get excited, and then that money would be gone because we had to fix something or buy something new to expand the business.
Sure.
And it was long hours. It was a really tough time. It wasn't easy. I mean, obviously there's guys who have the money and are able to just say, hey, here's some equipment, here's a manager, I'm gonna go sit back on the couch and just watch this grow.
Yeah.
That was not us. We
Sure.
were 7 days a week, 12 hours a day or more. I mean, my day consisted of leaving the house at 6 a.m., usually work until somewhere around 9 p.m. I'd get home, kiss the kids as they were going to bed. I'd eat some cold dinner while I was invoicing till midnight, 1 in the morning, and then
Yeah.
do it all over again.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, I had to wake up earlier than 6 of that next day.
Right.
So,
How long did that last for? How long were you doing that cycle in order to get the business off the ground?
that was probably the first 2 years.
Okay.
And, you know, goods and bads with that. We had some better days and some not so good days. I mean, we had some days where I just wouldn't come home. You know, we had a big project in Miami, and I'm just like, hey, I'm just gonna stay here. It was a 24-hour project, actually, so we had our guys working in shifts at that time. And again, just odd jobs. So in that particular situation, a service, they call it a service company, had shipped us 1,500 fixtures, like for a store.
Okay.
So it was a Macy's being put into a Miami mall.
Sure.
They shipped us these fixtures in a warehouse, in a random vacant warehouse in the middle of Medley.
Okay.
We're assembling fixtures, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and doing shift changes. And they're being loaded into trucks as fast as we can build them and being taken to the store to put clothes on them.
Yeah.
Again, has nothing to do with what we do now, but it was making money.
Yeah.
Well, of course, a couple of the guys didn't make the second shift. So I'm like, well, here I am building fixtures at 2 a.m. in Medley.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely had some good times and bad. And in fast forwarding, it's a big thing with me now is, unless it's an emergency and the client is either a good client or willing to pay for an emergency service, we do not work weekends.
Sure.
We haven't worked weekends in probably a good 4 years.
Okay.
We don't, I'm home by 6. I usually don't get here until 8:30 or 9 or 10. I mean, I kind of come and go as I please now. I've got it to that point with me personally.
Sure.
We have drivers, we have teams, we have crews, people answer the phone, people who do our marketing. We have all of that separate from me. So like I could disappear for 2 weeks and it would run itself, which is ultimately the goal, but it took a while.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really important story to hear, because a lot of people will just tune in and see this episode and they'll hear you say, I don't work weekends, I can take off. And they don't see that background of the years of hard work it took to get to that point. They expect kind of instant success, basically.
Right. No, it's a lot of hard work. I mean, I see people who buy businesses thinking it's going to be that way, and it's not. I mean, there is work to be done, and even when you think the work is done, there's more work to be done. I mean, we've reinvented ourselves a half a dozen times, and I'm not opposed to doing it again tomorrow if we have to.
Sure.
We have a goal, obviously, which is to feed our families, to feed our employees' families, and that's going to continue. There's no if not, we're going to do it. It's just a matter of how we do it. If we need to turn all these trucks into LED billboard trucks, that's the new cool thing, we'll do it.
Well, and that's one of the marks of a good business or a good businessman, is that you pivot to the market, right? So you stay in the money wherever it is.
Yeah. We will chase basically wherever it is. I mean, we don't personally sometimes go to certain locations, and we'll say, hey, the client, we'll say, hey, I don't want anybody else to go but you. Okay, well, it's going to be this. This is what it's worth to go, 3 hours away with a personal truck from this yard in West Palm.
Sure.
And, we'll chase that. That's fine. If that's what we got to do, we'll chase it. If we need to relocate trucks like we did it this last year with the hurricane, with Helene, if we need to chase going to a storm, we will go. We don't mind. We have assets in the entire state of Florida. So we can service just about any natural disaster, flood, hurricane, tornado that comes across. But if additional assets and support is needed, we'll shift assets. We don't mind. We've got almost 200 dumpsters just on the East Coast here.
Wow. So using all the experience that you have now, if you look back at those early days, is there something you would have done differently that you say, man, that would have helped me scale this business, or it made it so much easier from the beginning?
Money is really the only thing, because we did what we could do with the money we had available at the time.
Okay.
So, when it came to the trailers, that was a good pivoting point into the trucks that we have now. I mean, if you had $1 million and said, hey, I want to start a dumpster business, you probably wouldn't even do it the way I'm currently doing it. You would get CDL trucks, and you would offer 10s through 40s, and you would compete with, all the big names. Our niche was never to do that. Our niche was, when we got into this and started scaling and got past the 25 mark when it came to dumpsters, we were only at that time doing 12 and 16 yard dumpsters, because we couldn't compete with a 20 or even a 30 yard dumpster with a big truck with, again, the larger names. So we were able, though, to give you a 12 or a 16 yard dumpster at a significant discount, because the difference is their $200,000 truck costs a lot more to fire up and get a dumpster on site than my little trucks did. Now that has changed some to where we do have bigger trucks. We have 20s, we have 30s, we've even got 40s. And we can compete because we've gotten to a different place in our position.
Well, I mean, going back to the beginning and kind of talking to the potential entrepreneur that's out there, what's like the minimum equipment that you could have to get started, either in junk removal or dumpster rental? Like, if you don't want to take out massive loans, if you don't have that money, where do you start?
So you can start as minimal as you want. I mean, we're on a handful of Facebook forums, junk removal and dumpster business forums, and guys can start as small and as cheap as they want to. Sure. I've seen guys start with a late 80s Ford Ranger. Okay. Build some wood sides on the side of it, and they offer $80 a pickup. Sure. And that guy is doing the best he can with what he's got, and as he grows, I'm sure he'll end up one day with a bigger truck and then a trailer attached to that, and then next thing you know, he might end up with something like this. Sure. Dumpsters is very similar. I mean, at this point in the current market in our industry, not competition, but let's just say our coworkers, a dumpster company has now become anybody with a dump trailer. If you have a dump trailer and you're willing to drop it off for a day or two, people are advertising those as dumpsters. Sure. Okay. We have dump trailers, and they're more for specific uses. If somebody wants a dump trailer, a dumpster on wheels for a job that, you know, the client is very adamant about their pavers not being damaged or whatever,
Sure.
we will do that. Again, another set aside from us and anybody else, most other dumpster companies set down a dumpster wherever you ask for it.
Okay.
We will set down a dumpster on wood. All of our trucks are equipped to carry wood, so our dumpsters never effectively hit the ground.
Oh, nice.
And that has been the scare with why everybody wants dump trailers, is because they had a dumpster that got set on the ground, cracked a paver, cracked the driveway, scuffed a brand new driveway, whatever. Yep. So we have options and processes in place to fix that and not have that happen for us, because you know, there's a lot of companies that will make you sign the waiver and say, we're not responsible no matter what, we'll drop it, and if it cracks your driveway, it's on you.
Sure.
We don't want those reviews. We don't want that bad publicity. We would rather clean drop, you know, put it on wood, be gone again, and again, back to the good reviews and the good feedback.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's dump trailers. It's not hard to get into this business at a very low entry level. And you know, there's a lot of guys nowadays that are doing it for side hustles. You know, they do it on nights and weekends, or just Saturdays. I mean, there's guys going out doing it and making an extra couple $100 just to help, you know, feed their families.
For sure. What's the advantage of offering junk removal and dumpster rental together in like one business package?
So there's a lot of companies that offer one, the other, and not both. We happen to have already been doing junk removal when we started off doing dumpsters.
Okay.
So it was just going to happen with us.
Okay.
The benefit, for sure, there's a huge benefit in that. And really, there's no reason a dumpster company can't be a junk removal company, because they can just get extra labor and load the dumpster.
Sure.
Junk removal, maybe not so much, because they would have to have dumpsters to do that.
Sure.
The nice thing is, if somebody calls and says, hey, listen, I am needing all this stuff removed and I want a dumpster, but I don't have any help, and I'm 85 years old and I'm not in the best health, and it's 95 degrees outside, I don't know who I'm gonna get to load the dumpster, but I need a dumpster.
Sure.
We offer them junk removal. And in that case, a team shows up in a truck, load by volume. And very honestly, if you or I were doing it, I would recommend to you junk removal, for the simple fact that pound for pound and comparably, I think junk removal is cheaper and faster. Dumpsters are dropped off in your driveway. They're good for certain things. They're good for construction sites. They're good for jobs that the trash is ongoing. But if you have a garage and you already know you want everything in that garage cleaned out, junk removal is the way to go, 1000%.
Okay. Interesting. And you mentioned kind of an example client for junk removal. Is that the typical client, someone who can't do the work for themselves, or is there a typical client for junk removal?
There is no typical client. Honestly, our client is, I could name off 1,000 scenarios, but we have contractors that have a dumpster on site and will also call us and say, hey, do junk removal. We don't want to put that trash. We want you to come pick up this trash. Sure. We have certain contractors that don't have space for a dumpster. You know, like they're in a condo, there is no parking spot, or the HOA doesn't allow for a dumpster, or the parking spot is, you know, clear across the parking lot. Sure. So junk removal, the two-man team shows up, loads everything out, it's gone. And again, the big thing is it's gone quick. So with the gone quick, a dumpster will get filled up by your neighbors. Okay. A truck won't, because we're loading it, coming with it, leaving with it. Sure. So a lot of these guys will order a dumpster and be like, oh, drop it off on Friday, I'm gonna fill it on Monday. And they'll show up Monday to a full dumpster that they haven't even filled yet. Oh my gosh. So those guys, especially in the lower income apartments and neighborhoods like that, they'll go junk removal just because they don't want the neighborhood to use the dumpster on their behalf. Sure. So because they're paying, if it's full, even if they didn't load it, it's full when it's full, and that's it. It is full when it's full. We've actually had contractors that are like, hey, you know, it's not my fault, I wasn't there to load it. And I'm like, yeah, that's not really my fault either, though. Right. And we've had the opposite. We've had where people are like, hey, the dumpster sat there 2 weeks, we didn't use it, so we don't want to pay for it. I'm like, okay, I'll give you this opportunity. Call Enterprise, rent a car for 2 weeks, don't use it, just park in your driveway, see how that goes. And if they give you the money back, I'll do the same. Right. So we, you know, we're ultimately a rental company on this side. Yeah. On this side, it's a service, but on this side, it is a rental company. That unit, that piece of equipment is yours for that amount of time. And then when you give it back to us, there's terms and conditions. So for example, you know, if we rent you a dumpster for $100 and it includes 1 ton, which is 2,000 pounds, if we dump it and it's 2 tons, there's a per ton price after the included.
Okay.
If we give you 2 weeks included and you held it for 3 weeks, there's a per day included. So there's, little things along the way, but we try not to nickel and dime, but that would be kind of the difference in those two options.
Okay. I mean, from a business standpoint, is the profit margin better for a business on junk removal, or is it better on dumpster rental?
So I'm going to say they're very similar.
Okay.
Marketing is more expensive here.
Okay.
Because you're competing with the large franchises. Got Junk King, Jiffy Junk, J-Dog. I mean, there's a better part of almost a dozen franchises nowadays that are spending huge money for them to show up first.
Okay.
So the pay-per-click when you do Google ads is way more expensive on this side, and there's way more people on the entry level doing it. So you're competing with the big guys and the little guys on this side.
Okay.
I do like the profit margins on this side. I also like the profit margins on that side because it's one less guy.
Sure.
It's only one driver, one truck, that's it. This requires two. This is in and out though. So there's, we're kind of going back and forth with the options. These obviously these don't last forever either, but these don't last forever. These get beat up pretty good. And after, 5 years, they need paint, new floors, or some guys will just scrap them and start over.
Okay.
So there is, there is the option of having to buy a $4,000 or $5,000 dumpster every 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So
you mentioned showing up first online and pay-per-click. Is that the main way you get new clients now, or how do you prospect for new clients?
So we do everything you can think of. We will literally, we will hand out flyers, cards. We will still do the old school cold calling. We will pull up to a job site where there's trash and no dumpster, and we know we're the solution, and hand them a card. My new thing is I pull up to roofers or contractors. I have air fresheners with a cutout actually of this truck.
Okay.
And I'll pull up next to them and tell them to roll the window down, tell them their truck stinks, and throw them an air freshener.
Nice.
And the air freshener says the website, the phone number. We give out pens, just everything you can think of. We share all over Facebook. There's a lot of free ways to do it. There's all of the, cheap and free directories of service businesses. Facebook doesn't love it, but you can go on Marketplace and offer a service until they decide to, cancel or temporarily suspend your Marketplace service. There's all the local groups, the swip swaps of wherever you're from that you can advertise on until you piss off the admin of that particular group.
Sure.
And then you do have all of the paid stuff. You have the SEO stuff that is ultimately going to be the best thing to do, but it does take time, and it is a constant fight. And if you're not doing it with a proper SEO company that knows what they're doing and is going to continue to keep a good heartbeat on that, or a good thumb on the pulse, you'll end up throwing your money away. And it's hard because you can get SEO services as cheap as $100 a month and as expensive as $3,000 a month. And every single one of them will tell you won't see results for up to 6 months. And in 6 months, you're going to find out how much money you spent and didn't get anything, or if you're actually doing anything.
Yeah.
And then you do have Google ads. Google ads are, again, very expensive. I mean, $1,000 a month budget is very minimal. And we've seen months where we've spent $6,000, $7,000 a month just on Google ads. It all depends on your workflow. Luckily for us, the majority of our work is reoccurring. Word of mouth, current clients reusing our service on both ends, junk removal and dumpsters. And we do get some new clients, but we stay very busy with reoccurring work. So our advertising dollars are very minimal because we stay very busy, almost unable to keep up with our reoccurring work, which is a blessing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, managing the business, is it harder to manage a dumpster rental business, or is it harder to manage a junk removal business?
So there's moving parts in both. I'm going to say it's very similar. In both businesses, it's answer the phone, schedule the job, getting either yourself and your helper, if you're in junk removal, or just yourself out as a driver, or if you've grown and you have drivers, the drivers.
Sure.
So there's an answering the phone, dispatching portion of it. The day-to-day of it is to make sure you have the inventory, make sure the inventory gets out, a process in place for it to get there, or the truck to get there if you're doing junk removal. Sure. As simple as t-shirts and uniforms and looking good when you get there. dumpsters stickered up, all of that nature. And then you have all the in-betweens, flat tires, blown transmissions, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then the communication along the way, the review processes to get that back from the customer, invoicing. I'm going to say they're very, very similar. They both require all the same thing: answering the phone, invoicing at the end, reviews in between, good customer service. Yeah, I don't think there's much of a difference. There's a little more hand-holding sometimes with junk removal because people aren't sure what they want to do, what they want to throw away. So there's a little more hand-holding there, but there's also 2 guys there, and it's usually in and out quicker.
Sure.
One trip, in and out, we're gone. With this, obviously, we got to go out there once, drop it off, once to pick it up. So, very, very similar, and pros and cons that probably weigh each other out.
Sure. So the people aspect of the business is sometimes a difficult, thing to manage. How many employees do you guys have right now? And is that something that came naturally to you, or is it a skill that you picked up as the business kind of grew and matured?
So employees are very similar to babysitting. Obviously, a company is only as good as its employees.
Sure.
I could have never done or been where we are or anywhere near it trying to keep this a one-man show all by myself. And there's plenty of guys that are very happy with being one-man shows. They're the only guy. When they go on vacation, the business stops. And that's okay. There's nothing bad about that. That is their measure of success or what they need to fulfill their life or whatever.
Sure.
I haven't found my limit yet. I'm just going to keep growing and going until we figure that out. But no, employees are huge. At the moment, we are at 8 employees.
Okay.
In the field. We have myself, I consider to be an office employee. I have another girl who does all my website stuff. She's an amazing social media marketing, website design, branding. She actually has her own company on the side, so maybe we could plug that.
Nice.
And then, so I guess 10 of us ultimately with the 8 and the 2. Employees are hard though. Employees are, we've had, I could tell you some crazy stories about employees. I mean, we've had everything from one of the guys actually that you just watched drive away. He's been with me since we started actually in 2011. And I've known him for probably 5 years prior to that. So he's been in my life and around for a very long time. Most of our employees started out, which I wouldn't recommend, was always friends or family. And that's always how it starts, I feel like. And it's hard because friends and family is tough because they expect one thing, you expect one thing, and nobody really ever figures out what that is until it blows up in your face.
Sure.
I definitely think employees with no strings attached, just employees, are probably the better bet. But finding employees are tough. You have employees that think they're worth $1 million an hour and they're not worth $1. And then you have the opposite. You have guys that will come here and work their butts off and prove themselves. And those guys are the needle in the haystack. They're very hard to find. And once you find them, you have to hold on to them. That's.
How do you hold on to them? Like, how do you keep that employee motivated that is your star employee?
So we, first of all, try to keep this very family oriented. We're not just a push, company that requires, quotas and, you listen, you call me, you need a day off, you need to get off early, you need to go watch your kid play a sport, you need a week off, whatever it is. We work it out, we communicate well. And on the flip side, we try to take care of our guys. We make sure they're compensated fairly. When they overperform, we'll give them an end of week bonus or, obviously we do annual reviews and bonuses as well. I shouldn't say obviously, I don't know if everybody does that. We actually do offer paid time off, which in a smaller business, I don't know that everybody does that. We usually give 2 weeks paid in addition to paid holidays. So, we try our best to make sure our guys are taken care of. And that way that when they go home and they're sitting around with their friends on the weekends and talking about their jobs, their friends are maybe a little envious of their job and maybe they want to come over too.
Word of mouth recruiting.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like the friends of friends thing has always been great because if you've got an employee for 5 years and he vouches for the new guy, he's going to take that guy under his wing. You might get some training that you otherwise aren't paying for. You might get an extra manager that you didn't really know he was his manager because, hey man, I stuck my neck out for you. You're screwing up. Let's tighten this up or let's do better or don't do that. Or So word of mouth recruiting, friends of family. Again, there's pros and cons to it, but yeah, we've been luckily, for the most part, very lucky. And we do a good training process. We make sure they ride with a few different guys. They'll learn what I would want them to know.
Okay.
They'll learn what other guys would want them to know. I'll let them ride. Like, for example, we're hiring a driver right now.
Nice.
So when we do end up finding that driver, we're in the middle of the interview process. When we figure out who we're going to go with, and we're down to 3, if any of you guys are watching, once we figure that out, they'll get a day with me, they'll get a day with 2 other drivers, and they'll get a last day also with me. So that way, if they learned anything that I really don't want them to know, I'll fix that.
Sure.
From the other guys. But for the most part, we try to give, and you get different scenarios, you get different situations. And it's hard because they could ride with me for 2 weeks every single day and never run into a situation that they might run into a month and a half down the road.
Definitely, yeah.
The business, the what we do changes. People put different things in dumpsters. Dumpsters fail. Stuff under the dumpsters fail. Trucks fail. Things happen. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it doesn't.
Right.
And you have to be able to think on your feet. Field improvisation in this business is a huge thing.
Interesting. Well, kind of when you're improvising and starting a new business, how did you deal with pricing a job in the beginning? Because a lot of people struggle. They're like undercharged for their services, or they overcharge for their services, and then they aren't getting the business. Was that something that you knew going in, or how has that evolved over time?
So it has definitely evolved over time. We started off to stay competitive. We never want to be the cheapest guy. And it goes back to the beginning of this interview where I talked about our communication and our service.
Sure.
Where other dumpster companies that we compete with, if you call on a Monday morning and ask for a dumpster, they're going to tell you, yeah, we'll get there like Wednesday or Thursday. You call me on a Monday morning, I'm going to try my best to get it to you Monday, same day, if not guaranteed within 24 hours. So we never wanted to undercut ourselves because we knew our service would pay for itself, but we would also play with the numbers.
Yeah.
So there's companies in our industry that also play with the numbers. We try to go with the law of averages. So for example, our pricing includes amount of tonnage and amount of time. That way you're not getting because everybody has a bad taste in their mouth for the guy who finishes a job and then they're being asked for more money.
Sure.
So there's competitors in our area that are like, hey, for example, $2.99 for the dumpster. And then, $9 a pound, or 9 cents a pound, which comes out to $180 a ton. Well, I include 2 tons at $450 on a similar size dumpster.
Sure.
So these guys are nickel and diming along the way, and next thing you know, my $450 compared to that dumpster with the other guy could be a $600, $700, $800 dumpster.
Okay.
So we try with the law of averages and to keep within range. And as far as pricing goes, we've obviously shopped our competition, make sure that we are in range, make sure our service speaks for itself. And then just pricing goes accordingly. Our pricing is based on dump fees, fuel costs, labor, and then anything after that is profit.
Sure.
So dumpster costs go up, that might change. Dump fees go up. They just recently went up, that might change. Insurance is super expensive on the vehicles. Labor isn't cheap. But again, you can't be like, oh man, all these things went up. I'm gonna now charge, for example, $500 for a 12-yard, which is our smallest option. Because if everybody else is still at $450, you're not gonna get that business.
Definitely,
so
yeah.
As a business owner, you may have to just end up eating it and not getting, whatever your percentage you're used to getting. You may, for example, if you're not getting the 200 you used to get, you might have to only get 150 to keep that dumpster moving.
Sure.
And once that market corrects itself, then you go from there. But the current issue in our market is it's flooded. So you do end up with a lot of people who are coming in cutthroat, trying to get their stuff out there. Mm-hmm. But you also end up with a lot of people who realize that going cutthroat doesn't make any money. So that's where you go back to the guy I mentioned that is nickel and diming. You get a dumpster for a base fee, and then you have an outrageous amount of cost for tonnage, a daily rate, a mileage rate, a fuel rate. Again, my dumpster is $450, 2 weeks, 2 tons included.
Right.
And that's it.
Simplify and make the decision easy for them.
100%. And that way, when you're done, when people are like, okay, I got the dumpster ready to pick up, what do I do next? I say nothing. We pick it up,
right.
We send you a review to thank you, and we'll talk to you later. And they're like, oh, what if it's over? Because we do include the 2 tons. If there's a 3rd ton included, it's $95 per ton, and we prorate that accordingly. But if they're under 2 tons and they kept it for less than 2 weeks, again, they get a text saying, thank you so much, and that is it.
Sure.
Where, again, our competitors will be like, hey, thanks for the 300. You owe us another 350 between mileage, fuel, dump fees, days you had it, a cloud was over the sky,
right.
all these random fees. We don't believe in it. And it's why we've been around so long. There's so many people who are around for a few months, maybe a year, and then all of a sudden we sell their equipment. And don't get me wrong, we love that. We get really good deals on equipment. You know, it's a business, just like any other business, it's a business that people need to do their homework. You can't get into a business and be like, oh, I'm not going to pay insurance for a year and run it under my personal car insurance. And then in a year, I'll get insurance. Well, wait a minute. If it didn't make sense then, it's not going to make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you offer junk removal and you offer dumpster rentals. If I call you up and I say, I want junk removal, like what do I get? What's that process? And the same thing, if I say I want a dumpster rental, what do I get for that? And what's the process?
So usually when someone calls, I hear them out. So usually we get a call that says, hey, you know, my name is Sam, and Sam wants a dumpster because he had a family member pass away in Boca Raton. We're going through the stuff and we would like to just get rid of what we don't want and keep what we do want. So I will actually, at that point, if I'm on the phone and our others that answer the phone are trained the same, we will offer him both services. We'll say, hey, listen, we offer junk removal and we offer dumpsters. In your situation, if you want a dumpster, here's what it is. And we will go through the explanation of pricing, timeframes, tonnage included, from 12 yards all the way to 30 cubic yards. And we actually go further than that by explaining to them what a cubic yard is, trying to educate them a little bit, because though it does benefit us, if they rent a 12 yard 3 times at $450, if they could have just rented one 30 yard and got their job done, it's fine. It's substantially cheaper financially to do one 30 yard as opposed to 3 12 yards.
Sure.
They may not get the extra 6 yards out of it, but you know, it could have got their job done. So we try our best to explain to people and educate them on what a cubic yard is, what they're getting into, because there's so many misunderstandings in this business. They think they're ordering a 12 yard dumpster, so they think they're ordering a 36-foot dumpster, because 12 yards times 3.
Right.
And I have to explain to them that the yardage is a measure of volume, cubic yards.
Sure.
Some people think they're ordering a 30-yard dumpster and they really, really want it, but they don't have 90 feet. I'm like, you don't need it. Those are only 20-yard dumpsters, or 20-foot dumpsters. So we go through that, explain everything, explain how it could work. From there, if they do mention, you know, size constrictions of driveways or whatever, we will look at an aerial map, make sure it's something we could get our trucks into, get the dumpsters into, and that will dictate the job. Sometimes we move to trash removal, junk removal, because of the fact that there isn't space.
Sure.
And then on the flip side, we've had plenty of people call for junk removal. We will explain that process, explain those fees, explain how it works. Sometimes it being cheaper with labor included than a dumpster.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they'll end up as a primary inquiry of junk removal going back to dumpsters. And sometimes they'll do a hybrid model. They can do both. And we've had people that are like, hey, I know that this 2/3 of the home is all trash.
Yeah.
You know, we got to go through the garage. Okay, cool. So we'll get the junk removal guys in, they'll bang out all that, get you thinned out, and then we'll give you a dumpster that you can keep for 2 weeks to continue that process.
Do you always get 2 guys with junk removal, or does it depend on the...
So you get 2 guys. So the way junk removal works is it's by volume. So if, for example, if you rent a 12-yard dumpster, you get a 12-yard dumpster.
Okay.
And whether you fill that dumpster all the way, halfway, or never even put a single thing in it, you pay the same exact price.
Sure.
With a junk removal job, you pay by volume. So that's why I say sometimes people are like, well, I need 12 yards because that's your smallest dumpster, but I probably won't even halfway fill it. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. A 12 yard is $450. Half of this truck is 8 yards at $395, labor included. It might be beneficial to do that. And they're like, wait a minute, how does that work? I tell them, listen, that's our prices. It is what it is. So even at 12 yards comparatively, 12 yards, you load it yourself. This is $525 for 12 yards, but you don't lift a finger. So these guys are like, nah, you know, I'm gonna get the 12 yard and I'm gonna hire 2 labor guys. And I'm like, you're gonna be at $700.
Yeah.
So we try our best to help people get where we think they should be. Sometimes they have their own idea. Sometimes it needs to be that way for the specs of the job. You know,
Sure.
one thing doesn't always work for everything, but it does definitely complement one and the other, that we offer both, because sometimes junk removal works. Sometimes we drop a dumpster off and my guys are like, you know, we offer junk removal, here's our card. And they're like, oh man, we're gonna fill this dumpster and then we'll just have y'all come do the rest. We actually deal with a pretty good amount of churches that they'll get the congregation to help them on a weekend. So, you know, that's a Friday drop off, Monday pickup.
Sure.
But that's also tough. Back to what we said, we don't work weekends. So if they get the congregation, they fill that dumpster and it's full by 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, our next available is Monday.
Sure.
So we get some of those churches who have learned and will say, hey, bring me 3 of them. We're gonna do a big cleaning on Saturday or Sunday, drop them all off Friday, pick them all up Monday.
Sure.
So again, we aim to educate our client, because we don't want somebody to get a 12-yard and, like I said, end up with 2 of them because they could have done a 20-yard. And a 20-yard being 600, 12-yard times 2 at 450 is 900. It's
Sure.
a substantial savings. And the only thing we can hope is if we save you that $300, at least you can give us a good Google review.
Exactly. Well, as we wrap up here, I just have 2 more questions. What advice would you give to someone if they're considering like going to college or going and starting their own business? Would you say start your own business, you know, junk removal, dumpster rental is a good opportunity to get into right now? Or what are your general feelings on that?
So I think whatever you do, you should be passionate with. Everybody says if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
Sure.
I don't love doing dumpsters. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and say I do. But it pays the bills, it's fun, it's different. That's one thing that is nice. It's not going to the same place every single day, doing the same exact thing. We go to different places, we see different jobs, we meet, you know, different people. Those jobs turn into other things, and it's a fun experience and journey, I guess is the best way to put it. An example just came up the other day where a guy's son went off to college for 4 years at FSU, came back and decides he wants to work with dad doing junk removal at a junk removal company just north of us.
Okay.
I went into my son's room and I said, if you go to college and you come home and you want to work for me, I'll kill you. Save me the money.
Right.
Do not go to college and come home and decide you want to work for us.
Sure.
If you go to college, you better do something with your college degree. And I personally think, my wife might hate me for this, but I personally think that college is for people who are going to do something with their college degree.
Sure.
I personally did not go to college, and I think that if you don't have any interest in doing if you're just going to college to go through the process, don't go to college.
Sure.
Work, start a business, do what you're gonna do, be a pillar of society in whichever way you contribute.
Sure.
I hate the people who, I don't hate them, but I hate the fact that they went to college, they are $100,000 in debt, and now they're working at wherever they could find a job, which has nothing to do with their degree,
Sure.
making $45,000 a year. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I personally think I'd rather you start off making a little less and work your way up, or start your own business for that matter, and not have that debt behind you.
Definitely.
I mean, obviously my hope is my kids get a scholarship, we don't have to worry about that, but whatever you do, work hard at it, be the best at it, whatever it is.
Super awesome, super successful.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for your time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the advice.
Thank you.